Covercore is silently building something through Hololive English that nobody else in VTubing has attempted, and I don't think the industry realizes what it means. Hey there, I'm circuit.png. I'm still cooking. Currently, VTubing is in a state of flux, at least here in the West. We're in a very different place than we were merely a year ago. The VTuber boom of 2020? Yeah, that wasn't that long ago. Compared to every other online entertainment medium out there, VTubing is basically in kindergarten, learning ABCs and how to keep their hands to themselves. In the East, JP branches are stable and making money reliably, hand over fist, while the Western branches are still reeling around from 2025 without direction or a plan. Except for Hololive EN. When ENigmatic Recollection Chapter 3 was first announced, most people saw
September.
I am just a mere humble knight.
Well, then that shall be your gift.
But I saw something very different. The world's largest VTubing company slapping down infrastructure for the next era of VTubing. An era, frankly, many of us aren't prepared for. So we're going through what Hololive is building, why it matters, and expose just how far behind Western agencies really are. This might take a while, so sit back and hang on to your butts, because we're about to get deep like your girl Kathy dumping a deep dish pizza.
Now that's deep!
Thanks for sticking around. Enjoy the video. Back around 2021, Twitch was the center of the live streaming universe. The world was stuck at home and live streamers lived by one simple rule: go live. A lot. Karaoke, 6-hour streams, mic-licking ASMR. If you wanted to succeed, you were on Twitch. But over the next few years, Twitch went through some tough times. DMCA nuking thousands of VODs, the hot tub meta, splitting revenue 50-50. There was a lot of policy whiplash going on, and while nobody quit overnight, trust in Twitch kept eroding until the platform itself just stopped being enough. And while Twitch was stepping on rakes, YouTube and TikTok quietly became the real engines of growth. This was the first shift, the platform shift. Shorts and TikToks became the way people could find you, and YouTube VODs became the long-term home for archiving streams. You missed one, go to YouTube. It's always going to be there. Going into 2024, every career creator understood this is how you play the game. But now we're in this weird in-between era. The VTuber boom feels like a distant memory. The number of active VTubers has stagnated, but viewership is still growing. We survived the platform shift. Fans are more willing to drop cash for their favorite Oshis. Smaller creators know Twitch by itself isn't cutting it anymore. And like pulling your favorite shirt out of an overstuffed drawer, one shift always leads to another. So what's the next shift? Logically, it's a content shift, and I don't mean editing. It's narrative. Hololive and Covercore saw it before anyone else. And the moment they showed their hand was ENigmatic Recollection, or ENReco. ENReco.
Close enough.
ENReco is the project that pulls back the curtain on Hololive's plans. According to Hololive's own description, ENigmatic Recollection is a project where Hololive English talents are the main characters, and its story unfolds through roleplay, live streams, video content, and music. So, how does all this work? Talents are summoned to a Minecraft fantasy world called the Bestel. They arrive with amnesia, divided into different groups, and they get pulled into the conflicts of the in-game kingdom. They're free to improvise their own personal stories and interactions throughout. But these girls aren't just playing on a Minecraft server. Hololive had commissioned a fully custom Minecraft RPG story world developed specifically for this project, and it incorporates an underlying main plot that talents steer towards throughout the event. They didn't grab this off a CurseForge or use an Xbox gift card to buy it off the Minecraft marketplace. This is company cash spent to hire professionals, creating an environment that supports a long-term story. And that story isn't just in one place. Obviously, through the talent's live streaming point of view, but Hololive also commissioned whole animations and music videos as story companions. There are so many different points of interest that fans had to escape the fandom.com and Hololive wiki page to create a unique archive just to keep track of everything that's happening. Character relationships, daily recaps, major events. You don't get that from a one-off streaming collab. You get that from an anime or TV show. You get that from a serialized narrative. So, when the teaser for ENReco Chapter 3 was finally released, I didn't see Broken Bonds as the return of the latest content cycle. I realized this was the third experiment of a long-running cross-media story foundation. cover was laying down infrastructure for the future, but ENReco itself isn't holding everything together like Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame babysitting the rest of Justice. There's other strategic moves at play. Advent and Justice are the first Hololive EN generations that feel designed as a narrative pair from the ground up. You have the misunderstood villains, locked up in the cell for crimes we can't fathom, that finally escape to get their revenge on the world through cuteness. And you have the enforcers of justice, standing in opposition to catch the dastardly criminals from engaging in more destruction through cuteness. Where Hololive could probably make cool designs and call it a day, here they built an entire group storyline around Advent versus Justice. The official materials describe this dynamic as a new story unfolding between two rival groups, told through various content that includes comics and live streams. The motion comic prequel, fully voice acted by all 9 members, shows what was happening in their world before the streams we're watching now. The story of Advent is a collection of original music videos illustrating the group's overall journey. It's literally marketed as continuing chapters of an ongoing story. You see it, right? ENReco's custom Minecraft story world, Advent vs. Justice, generational rivalry, motion comics, music story chapters, all of it tied to Hololive EN specifically. This isn't random. It's not just more lore. The Hololive EN branch has been repositioned toward a focus on narrative. So this raises a particular question. Why now? Why not back in 2020 with the debut of Myth Generation or Council during the VTuber boom? It's because the audience has completely changed. In 2020, the foundation of the Western VTuber boom was isolation. People were stuck at home. They wanted someone to hang out with for hours at a time. Narrative would have been wasted on that sort of audience. They didn't want story arcs, they wanted company. But as the world reopened, the way people watched VTubers changed. Viewers stopped treating streams like background noise and started treating creators like episodic content. And episodic content requires structure. Today, Gen Z has broken the old YouTube rules. When niche was the driving factor, creators had to be the Minecraft guy or the karaoke girl. Gen Z doesn't follow creators though. They follow whatever topic is on their mind when they open the app. And YouTube is only too happy to oblige. But a narrative gives a stable identity that can ride the wave of whatever topic is trending that week. Look, think of your favorite show. Characters with a clear identity, a world with stakes, ongoing storylines, narrative payoffs. That's what makes people click the next episode, and the next, and the next. And this change in how people watch content also changed where they watch it. Hololive talents may have recently started to stream on Twitch, but that doesn't mean Twitch is suddenly stable or strategically important. Hololive isn't packing up the kids and moving their lives to start anew. They're simply expanding their influence. Their major projects, their music, their debuts, all of that still lives on YouTube. Hololive laid the metaphorical tracks, and now that the audience is finally ready, they're full steam ahead on a narrative future.
You guys ever have a train whistle? They're pretty cool.
And narrative isn't just good for the audience. It solves a business problem too, because the biggest business problem in VTubing has always been the same. Graduations. Everyone in this industry knows that VTubing is talent dependent. That's exactly why Cover Corp keeps the character IP for every Hololive member. Their contracts are designed knowing graduations will happen. From a business standpoint, the crushing graduation wave of yesteryear was not unexpected, but it did make the stakes raw and visible. It reminded fans and agencies alike that if everything depends on an individual performer, you're always one graduation away from losing momentum. And if you look at what Cover's been cooking, you'd see they've been trying to insulate themselves from this inevitability long before ENReco existed, like Hololive Dreams. It's a rhythm game where characters remain playable even after the talent leaves. I miss you, Vana. The Hololive trading card game includes cards for graduated members. And to my surprise, the virtual world, HOLOEARTH, is still continuing development, and it isn't tied to any single streamer. Oh cute, a tapir. This is the natural evolution of a company building IP to survive talent turnover, and ENReco fits directly into that strategy. A story world can continue even when the cast changes. A narrative ecosystem can evolve even when some talents move on. Hololive isn't just adapting to platform shifts. They're building an entertainment structure that can outlive any one generation. And when you compare that to what everyone else is doing, the gap becomes impossible to ignore. So, what are the other Western agencies doing? Well, if the Hololive approach is the kid drafting blueprints for a moon base, then overall the other agencies are the kid trying to teach their pet rock how to sit. Good boy. It's only appropriate to start with the one that used to be the whole Western scene. You know the one. I'm talking about VShojo. VShojo. Riding high as the pinnacle of the VTubing West. Big names, big presence, big Twitch energy. But 2025 spelled big trouble for this industry giant. Matara Khan left earlier that year, then Giga, and shockingly, founding members ENReco, all within a couple of months. But the real nail in the coffin was VTuber legend Iron Mouse, announcing her departure not even a month later. By the time summer 2025 was finished, every single talent had left the company. And to the industry's horror, VShojo was just ash and rubble. Why did this happen? VShojo ran out of money, with multiple talents and clients saying they were never paid for sponsorships and work. Then CEO Gunrun admits severe financial mismanagement, including charity funds being diverted to cover operational expenses. That announcement set in stone the complete shutdown of the company. This collapse just didn't end VShojo, it wiped out entire generations already assembled behind the scenes. Take BEASTIEZ as an example, the Monster Girl themed unit that had passed auditions and was preparing for their coordinated debuts. That debut pipeline evaporated overnight, but instead of scattering to the winds like every agency collapsed before, the 4 members stuck together and debuted anyways. BEASTIEZ became the first Western survivor generation, rising out of the ashes like a phoenix to outlive the agency that created it. At the time, VShojo talents were thriving creatively, but VShojo as a business was still stuck in the Twitch era model. Revenue dependent on merchandise sales and a support structure built almost entirely around sponsorships and marketing. Talents would create content and VShojo would take their cut, but that's it. There was no internal production pipeline that could ease the content burden for talents. No multimedia strategy to expand the talents beyond just live streaming. No cross-media unification of the agency's talents that could strengthen the agency as a whole. All of that was entirely dependent on each individual talent to manage and produce themselves. When the money ran low and folks had to get paid, that model had nothing to fall back on.
Okay. I don't think I could have helped you there.
Thankfully, the talent survived, but the agency didn't. From my point of view, VShojo's collapse showed that just stream a lot and we'll handle the rest later isn't enough to sustain a modern VTuber agency. But VShojo wasn't the whole West. There are agencies still standing and still growing, like FaceConnect. Based in Vancouver, they built a loyal fan base, expanded across multiple generations, and their talents have carved out strong identities.
Put your f***ing gun in my mouth and pull the f***ing trigger!
Their core focus is still variety streaming and personality-driven entertainment. But unlike most Western agencies, FaceConnect has started dipping their toes into something slightly bigger. Things like FaZe Academy, a weekend-long school-themed event wrapped in playful, in-universe roleplay. These aren't narrative arcs or story worlds, but they are signs that the company understands the appeal of narrative flavor. And that matters. It shows FaceConnect can see where the wind is blowing. They recognize that audiences have an appetite for cohesive themes and something a little more than just your everyday live stream. But here's the distinction. FaceConnect is experimenting with coordinated themes and some light narrative sprinkled in, while Hololive is building a full narrative ecosystem. That's not a criticism. FaceConnect is an indie-scale agency, and Hololive EN is backed by a multimedia corporation. They're playing on different fields. FaceConnect is innovating in their own way, and for right now, they can't yet build the kind of large-scale IP machine.
Wait, I don't want to
gonna be the butt again.
that Hololive is constructing. They're moving, just not at the same altitude. But Face Connect isn't the only one making moves. ChromaSHIFT is expanding aggressively, with a rapidly growing roster, polished debuts, and strong music output. Their production quality is surprisingly high for their size, even showcasing 3D performances at Offkai Expo. Right now, they look a lot like early Hololive JP, but their content model isn't doing anything new. Idol-style music, variety streams, and talent personality entertainment. They're evolving in polish and scale, but not in storytelling. Not yet. Huh? Oh. Looks like you're still here, huh? I almost forgot about you. Nijisanji.EN still has name recognition, a large roster, and the backing of a major Japanese corporation. They're active, stable, and still producing content regularly. But their model hasn't meaningfully changed since 2021. It's still the same fundamentals. ENIcolor's latest financial reports show strong company-wide growth, but nothing new is coming out from the EN branch. They're obviously not collapsing, but they're not experimenting or expanding either. Being the direct JP rival to CoverCore, ENIcolor doesn't need to innovate in the West because they're still printing tons of cash in the JP market. The EN branch is so small by comparison that they'll literally only get mentioned in financial reports if they underperform. And in this house, staying hidden is the name of the game. So, Nijisanji.EN is just air. Present, stable, unchanging. In today's Western industry that's shifting towards a narrative future, present is not the same as competitive. Taking each agency's current state and lining it up against Hololive, the contrast is kind of wild. As you can see, the Western agencies are still Twitch-era model. Stream a lot, talent personality, merch sales, repeat. Face Connect is experimenting and innovating at indie scale. ChromaSHIFT is growing fast into the early Hololive JP playbook. Nijisanji.EN is still large and active to remain output, but making waves in the West is not in the playbook. Compare that to Hololive EN, a YouTube foundation, a hard push into storytelling, and backed by a company that thinks in terms of multimedia IP, not the total of streaming hours. They have a custom story world in ENigmatic Recollection. They have a generational rivalry in Advent vs. Justice, supporting motion comics, cross-media events, and a fan base already trained to care about lore. No other Western agency is doing anything on that level, not even close. Hololive isn't trying to win the streaming wars. They're building an ecosystem, and ecosystems outlast streaming metas, platforms, and even talents. At this point, it's understandable if you're wondering, is Hololive leading the shift towards narrative VTubing, or are they just lucky? It's not like Hololive invented a new streaming format, and anyone can follow trends. So, what gives? Well, it's somewhere in the middle. Obviously, Hololive didn't cause the platform shift. Twitch did that to itself. Years of DMCA chaos, bad policy, and a discoverability problem that never got solved. Hololive didn't cause the audience shift either. People went back to normal life. Nobody has time for 6 hours of parasocial marathons anymore. The majority of the audience browses for topics, not creators. But once they find someone they like, they want structure. Hololive started off building a structure that just happens to be perfectly aligned with where things are already going. They launched EN on YouTube from day one. They built their brand around characters, not just streamers. They invested in music, animation, and multimedia long before most Western agencies even had stable management. So when the world shifted towards VODs, TikToks, and a focus on intellectual properties, Hololive didn't have to pivot. They just had to lean in. At the end of the day, CoverCore is a business. ENReco, the ABJ love story, the story chapter songs, these are business decisions. That's Hololive locking into the next phase of VTubing before everyone else even realizes what that phase is. But there's one more layer to this. and it might be the most important one. Hololive isn't just aligned where platforms and audiences are going. They're using the Western market as a testing ground. The wild VTuber West is wide open right now. VShojo has collapsed, Nijisanji EN is around, Face Connect and ChromaSHIFT are growing, but they're not shaping the direction of the industry. There's no clear leader here, and that vacuum is giving Hololive something they've never had before: a low-risk sandbox, an entire industry playground. Hololive is field testing a monetization infrastructure, and ENReco is the prototype. Seasonal merch cycles, cross-media events, and long-form IP that can live across multiple platforms. If these systems work in the West, if ENReco proves that narrative ecosystems can drive engagement and merch sales, Cover can port the whole framework back to Japan. Japan's VTuber market is mature. It's stable and driven by idol culture, but it's saturated. Hololive JP doesn't need narrative to survive. What they need is new ways to make money to keep growing. And what better place to develop those formats than the West? The risk is lower, the competition is weaker, and the audience is hungry for something new. Yago isn't just building a story, he's building a global IP pipeline. Clever girl. And the West is the perfect testing ground for the next decade of VTubing. All of this is pointing towards the same shift. Hololive is actively building towards the future, and the rest of us can feel that shift, even if we can't quite name it. Twitch feels shaky. Clips don't travel like they used to. Viewers are more selective. The old just stream a lot model gets heavier every year. But the solution is pretty simple. We need narrative, not lore dumps or backstories that never matter. Actual, structured storytelling. And here's the twist. The West already has these raw ingredients. Remember BEASTIEZ? This group has their narrative baked in. They rebuilt themselves as an indie group with a shared aesthetic and a mythic origin story, surviving the collapse of VShojo. That's narrative cohesion. They established a unified group story. Densetsu.EXE is similar. This idol trio carried an entire abandoned VShojo project on their backs and debuted independently with a fully realized concept. That's narrative execution. They finished the project that was left behind in the ash and rubble. Together, they prove the West has the creative DNA for narrative VTubing. What it doesn't have is the infrastructure. The rest of the industry, well, that pet rock is still doing a great job. Good boy. Now, let's pull all this back together. This new Hololive narrative ecosystem is what the rest of the industry will eventually follow. It's future-facing and matches where platforms and audiences are already heading. Meanwhile, agencies in the West seem to be evolving at a crawl. But you want to know what's really blowing my mind right now? We are standing in the moment before the narrative era of VTubing. Most people don't see it yet, but when they do, everything Hololive is doing right now is going to look a lot less like a collection of pet rocks and a lot more like the industry blueprint. I wanted to talk about this so small creators and indies like myself can have a fighting chance. If Hololive is already building towards this future of VTubing, what happens to the agencies and the creators who are still stuck in the past?